If you've been living paycheck to paycheck for more than a year, you already know the standard advice doesn't work. Budget better. Cut the subscriptions. Stop eating out. You've tried it. You did it for a month. And then, life happened. A car repair, a medical bill, a bad week, and you were right back where you started. Today we're going to talk about what actually breaks the cycle, with real steps, real numbers, and without the advice that sounds good on paper but falls apart the moment it meets your actual life. Before we get into the steps, I want to show you something that changes how you think about this problem entirely. Because the most important move in this video is one that most financial people won't tell you to do first. It sounds counterintuitive. I'll get to it. First, a number that puts this in context. A 2024 survey by Pence Intelligence found that 78% of American workers live paycheck to paycheck. 78%. But here's the part that doesn't get enough attention. That same survey found that 44% of people earning over $100,000 a year also live paycheck to paycheck. Let that sit for a second. Nearly half of six-figure earners are in the same cycle. That tells you this is not primarily an income problem. It is a margin and structure problem. And the solution is different depending on which version of the problem you're dealing with. Step 1. Find your actual margin. Before you change anything, you need to know what you're actually working with. And most people don't know this number. Your margin is your take-home pay minus every fixed cost you have. Fixed costs are the things that come out automatically or have to be paid every month regardless of what you do. Rent or mortgage, car payment, insurance premiums, utilities, phone, internet, any subscription on autopay. Not your grocery budget. Not dining out. Not clothing. Those are variable costs you can control. Fixed costs first. When you subtract your fixed costs from your take-home, what's left is your real margin, the money you actually have discretionary control over. For a lot of middle-class earners at $55,000 to $70,000 in household income, that margin is between $400 and $900 a month. Some months, it's less. Here's the truth about that number. If your margin is under $600 a month, cutting small expenses will not get you out of the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Not because cutting is a bad idea, but because the amounts are too small relative to the size of the problem. Canceling a $15 streaming service does not fix a $600 monthly shortfall. The fix has to be proportional to the problem. And for most middle-class earners, the fix has to touch the big fixed costs. Housing or transportation, or it has to touch income. We'll come back to both of those. But first, step 2. Step 2. Build the $1,000 wall before you do anything else. Every financial plan you've ever heard tells you to save 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's $9,000 to $18,000 for the average middle-class household. That number is completely correct as a long-term target and completely useless as a starting point when you're living paycheck to paycheck. Because here's what actually breaks the paycheck to paycheck cycle. It's not having 6 months saved. It's having $1,000 that you don't touch. That $1,000 is the difference between a $600 car repair going on a credit card, which adds a monthly payment that tightens your budget further, and a $600 car repair being just a bad week you recover from. Credit card debt at 22% interest is one of the most powerful forces keeping people in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Every time an emergency hits a zero-balance household, it creates debt. The debt creates a monthly payment. The monthly payment reduces the margin further, which makes the next emergency hit harder. The $1,000 wall stops that cycle. Not permanently, but it stops the bleeding long enough to build something real. If you don't have $1,000 saved right now, that is your only financial goal until it's done. Not investing. Not paying down debt aggressively. The $1,000 wall first. Step 3. Automate savings before you see the money. This is the move that most financial advice skips over because it sounds too simple. It isn't. When you try to save what's left at the end of the month, there's never anything left. That's not a character flaw. That's how checking accounts work. Available money gets spent. It has always worked that way. The solution is to make the savings disappear before your brain registers it as available. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to a separate savings account the day after your paycheck arrives. Not a lot. Start with $50 or $100 a paycheck. The amount matters less than the automation. With your employer's direct deposit, you can often split your paycheck. A fixed dollar amount goes straight to savings, the rest goes to checking. You never see it. You don't make a decision about it. It just moves. I want to be honest about the timeline here, because the research is genuinely inconsistent. Some financial studies say people can break the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle in 90 days with the right structural changes. Others put the realistic timeline at 12 to 18 months, depending on existing debt and income level. I don't know which number applies to you. It depends on your margin and your starting point. What the research does agree on is this: people who automate savings break the cycle consistently faster than people who rely on remembering to save manually. Step 4. Fix the structural problem, not just the surface one. Here's what I said at the start that I'd come back to. The counterintuitive move. Most people try to break the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle by spending less. That's the wrong starting point if your fixed costs are the actual problem. Because you can be perfectly disciplined with your discretionary spending and still end the month with nothing if your rent and car payment are too high. The two fixed costs that are large enough to actually change your margin are housing and transportation. A $400 reduction in monthly rent saves $4,800 a year. Paying off or downsizing a car payment saves $5,000 to $9,000 a year. Those are the only adjustments that move the math enough to matter for a middle-class earner on a $55,000 to $75,000 salary. The income side matters just as much, and this is where most paycheck-to-paycheck advice completely falls short. If your fixed costs leave you $500 or less in margin every month, there is a ceiling on how much cutting can help. The ceiling is $500. You cannot save more than you have. Increasing your income through a raise, a job change, or a legitimate side hustle that fits your actual schedule moves that ceiling. That's why salary negotiation is one of the most direct paths out of the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle for a 9-to-5 worker. One successful negotiation can add $200 to $500 a month to your take-home permanently. That's more than most people save in discretionary cuts all year. Here's the honest version of where to start. Calculate your real margin today. Not tomorrow. Today. Fixed costs out of take-home. Write the number down. Set a goal of $1,000 in a separate account before you do anything else. Split your direct deposit or set up an auto transfer the day your paycheck arrives. Even $75 a paycheck. Identify your largest fixed cost and decide whether it's the right size for your income. Housing and transportation are the two you actually have leverage over. If one of them is too high for what you earn, that's your real problem, and addressing it will do more than any budget app. Nobody breaks this cycle overnight. But people who break it consistently do these three things in this order. The ones who try to do it by willpower alone, just trying harder to spend less, almost always end up back where they started. Next week on this channel, we're going to talk about the middle-class money mistakes that keep people stuck, and a few of them will surprise you. Subscribe if you don't want to miss it. And drop a comment. What's your single biggest obstacle right now? Fixed costs, income, or something else? I want to know.